Hello, and welcome to A Slight Chance of Adventure, a Pathfinder 1st Edition campaign diary podcast. My name is Tyler. I was the DM of this campaign, and with me I have two of my players, Gavin.
Hello, I played Shanla.
And Tom.
Hi, I played Orcus.
Last episode, we opened on a fight between some demons. They won. They explored some ruins, killed some skeletons, entered into some underground vault, and we ended off right as they entered into the vault proper. Pick up there. Alright, so we left off, you guys had just had a bit of a fight at the entrance to, the vaults, which is, an underground region that was intended for people to take shelter during the destruction. The destruction is this thing that comes around every 100 or a couple hundred years, wrecks havoc in the Walkatubi archipelago. And this area was where people were supposed to go down, a group of people, particular Hestra followers, I think, supposed to go down here and survive the destruction. Clearly that didn't happen, given all of the skeletons you have seen so far. So the question is, why? And can it be prevented? And at the entrance to the vaults, there's a choice between a couple different pathways, right? I think there was one area it's kind of blocked off, and there were two large hallways that go off to who knows where, or tunnels, right? You guys decide to go down one that apparently was the storage passage where a lot of stuff must have been stored. That's probably why it's called the storage passage. And because that's the direction the Gravebound, the thing you just fought and forced to run away, had run down. There were a couple different things throughout this place I'd prepared as just little interesting things to find. One of them was a room that was filled with a weird mold that seemed to have some effect. I think it made you dizzy or something.
It did something.
It messed with your perception for a bit. So it made your eyes blurry, I think. Elika collected some for later, I'm sure.
I don't remember if she even ever used it.
No. But she would do things like that occasionally, just collect shit if it seemed oh, this could be cool for drugs. Anyway, after this, at some point you encounter the Gravebound, the undead dirt thing. I mention here that you guys win easily, and I remember why. Because Fierce hit a crit with a weapon that does ×3 crit. So he just one-shot it.
He rocked it shit.
Yeah. We spoke about CR not working last episode. Here's why you should read things so you make sure things are as challenging as they should be. This thing was immune to crits. It was amorphous.
Oh.
Yeah. It was a kind of creature that shouldn't have had been able to be crit, which would have been disappointing for Fear as a player. But remember after the fact, I'm why was it so easy? It should have been able to take one crit. And I read that it's Elika, she collected the mold, collect some of the Gravebound's dirt.
Yep.
That's a little weird.
Yes,
Druids, man.
Druids, yes. You see a safe of some sort, and realize, okay, we need to find a key because we can't. I think one of you may have tried to pick it and was no, there's
probably
no
me.
Yeah. I think they were Orcus, go pick it. You do that things like that, right?
Yeah, you're a rogue.
You do crime.
Yeah. I did not.
It's because I'm green, isn't it?
Well,
he was burgundy.
It's because I'm burgundy.
Because I'm a hobgoblin.
Yeah.
I thought he was an orc for some reason. Just now.
No.
Forgot that he's a hobgoblin.
I think that mistake got. Plus, his name is Orcus.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was always oh, you're a goblin. Oh, you're. Oh.
So last time,
nope.
I mentioned that there was a library in the above ground that you guys didn't find, right?
Yes, you said that.
I remember I wanted you to find the books that were in a library, so I took those books and I put a library down in the vault and I put those books there. And you find that now.
Now, would you call that railroading? Or
no, that's not railroading. That's
That's
efficient
Thanos.
use of DMing time resources.
Reality is whatever I want it to be.
No, I think doing things like that, if you want to drop a little bit of lore for the players, just finding whatever opportunity to do so is, it's fine. It's not like it's not like I was like, you have to go. I just stuck a library down here because I wanted you guys to see these things. Let's see. Listed in that library, you guys found a lot of apparently biographies, last wills, histories, and religious texts. You found a book about the conflict between the Waka and the Tupi tribes from after the Third Destruction. So this was like from the previous era, essentially. So it was like a really old book on the fight. Now this was the next book was a bit of lore. Each of these had like increasing DCs to like find. I think one of you hit like DC 30 or something. So you found everything.
Someone went nuts.
You found a book written about written by one of the members of the tribes about the teachings of the elves. And I think this was the first mention that there had been like, well, you guys knew because Tuzma and Elika were like native to Wakatupi that like elves were some way native to these islands.
Because Elika was a half elf.
Yeah, you guys didn't know how or why, and this was the first like mention in lore, like, oh, the elves were here teaching people? What? Okay. And then apparently there was also a stone tablet tucked away that depicted like somebody praying to Apollyon, or like a void beast. So, and that was like, ooh, there were people in their midst. Yes.
Cultists.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a good cult.
It's at this point you find, you reach like the end of the passage, and I remember this was a cave system, but they like blocked off the end of the cave system. And you were like, well, can we go through? And it was like, no, it's a stone wall. And I didn't want you guys to go through because there was nothing past there. So like, you're like,
we take out our pickaxes.
yeah, I would like mentally prepare myself a little bit. Like, are they gonna get Fierce to like hammer away at this for a bit? And we're gonna have to tell them, yep, it's a cave. Don't go down it.
Please.
Yeah, please.
I have not prepared anything.
Turn into a very different campaign.
Just end up in the Underdark.
Yeah.
So now we're dealing with the drow.
I did have some imaginations, like, oh, maybe they could get lost in the cave for a bit, but I didn't really want that to happen. It was like, just in case they do something really stupid.
Hey, it wasn't that dumb.
Secret tunnel.
Okay. So you return to the central area, because you pretty much explored the storage tunnel and all the stuff in there, found whatever. And you still hadn't found, like, a key to open the safe. So you return to the central area, and you go to the one that was like blocked off by rubble. You start trying to uncover it, and after you uncover it a little bit, like you can sort of see into the chamber. You see like an undead creature looking out at you.
I remember this.
I don't remember this very well.
What do you remember, Tom?
I remember we looked in. Like I think maybe I put my hand in and it got hit. Yeah. And then we're like, oh, don't like that.
Like they grabbed onto your arm and like tried to yank you in or whatever.
Not a fan.
And then you guys like through the little hole of like just this undead creature staring out at you, which is apparently intelligent. It talks with you a little bit. What this creature was, I labeled it the traitor in my notes because this creature was actually the reason the bad things had happened to the vault. They'd like infiltrated, and like they were a worshiper of Apollyon, and had done some subterfuge, sabotaged some stuff, and like when the destruction happened, people got trapped in here and things didn't go well. At this point, after talking with it a little bit and being like, okay, this thing's clearly evil, Fierce gets hit with some negative energy. I think it was like trying to convince you guys to let it out, and you're like, no, you're evil. So you like block the passageway back up, and are like, okay, we'll just leave that for now. We'll just leave that.
Very clearly a dick. I don't know why we would let you out.
Honestly, we probably should have killed it there.
Well, you do later. Spoilers.
Yeah.
So you head down the residential passageway, which is like, where people slept and shit. Among various bodies, I think you find like bits of gold. At this point, you fight some skeletons and whites. They're called. They're like creatures with like, they're like zombie things that do negative energy. And
they're zombies but special.
Yeah. I remember there was like you fought like near a cliffside. Like there was an area where there was like a big chasm, and that's like kind of where the vaults ended. But like it wasn't blocked off. It was just like that they couldn't go past that. So yeah,
there's just nothing.
It was just like a cinematic moment. Yeah, like fighting next to a cliffside against some undead. evil undead. On one
Just
of
like in
these,
Spy Kids.
yes, totally, like in Spy Kids. Everyone's fantasy is Spy Kids.
Yep. Copyright.
Anyway, on one of them, you find the key to the safe in the storage passage you've been looking for. Elika also takes a white skull.
She just keeps collecting things.
She got possessed by a kleptomaniac, grabbing all the shit.
So you open the safe. You go over and open the safe, and you find some paintings. And I think, do you guys remember these paintings?
I remember we wanted to sell them.
Yes. You guys realized pretty quickly they were valuable, and that you'd want to sell them.
Like, oh, we found very little gold in the dungeon vault thing, so it's got to be. So this stuff got to be quite valuable, I bet.
I remember the one I put the most emphasis on, and people, I think you guys also paid the most attention to, and the most expensive one was like a painting that was supposed to be like a depiction of the destruction, of like the disaster that comes around.
Didn't Shanla's vision look like the painting or something like that?
I think I may have like drawn some parallels, like, hey, wow, this painting is like so good that it actually like evokes some of the feelings you had in your vision, Shanla, right? I think I may have said that. It was clearly like some sort of masterpiece painting. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And worth 200 gold.
Yeah, Tyler will be drawing that and presenting it
and it'll be just as good as I described it. Yes.
Yes.
Amazing.
Cannot wait.
Anyway, at this point, you guys have been exploring for a bit, living in a couple hours. You had some fights, and you're like, okay, we need to rest. Where should we rest? We can't go all the way back up. That would take too long. So we're gonna have to sleep somewhere in the vaults. And you're like, I know, we'll sleep in the safe, because it was actually like a room with like a big iron door blocking it off.
Yep.
And you guys had the key, the only key seemingly. So if you just close the door, you guys were fine. But the funny thing is, you guys decided to do watches inside here.
Anyways.
Yeah. So like it was like some of you sleeping and then one of you just staring at the iron door. And I remember, I think you guys were like, does anything happen? I was like, no, it's an iron door. It's an iron door.
You watch an
we don't know.
iron door.
Yeah, I know. So, you guys
yeah.
like kept like, are you sure? And I was like, and so like every watch, I would just say, that sure is an iron door.
With more and more emphasis.
Yeah. Because I was just like, yep, it's an iron door. It was a funny moment of just like, yep, you're staring at an iron door all night. Great fun.
Hey, something could have knocked. We don't know.
Anyway, you guys wake up, and you return to the central vault and discover, oh god, we've let the evil thing out.
Technically, we didn't, but...
Well, you left it uncovered enough that it managed to...
Yeah.
I think I did some rolls to, like, make strength checks for it, if it could, like, or for, like, figure out how to... Now that you'd lightened the load a little bit, could it figure out how to get out? And it made, like, the checks in the night, so...
It found the load-bearing pebble?
Yes. You enter into the room that it had been in. Apparently there's some elven writing on the walls. Let me check.
Fancy. What? I think if one of us would have been able to read it out of any of us.
Yeah, well, yes, Elika could read Elvish. She wasn't a half-elf. So some of the things it says, may fate follow its course, and may we follow with trust. To accept fate is victory, not defeat. Path walked is a way found. To accept is to see. Hestra watches without preference. So it's like various religious mantras from like followers of Hestra. But written in Elven for some reason.
Which implies elves, of course.
Or nerds who are really into elves. Or worse, Lord of the Rings fans.
We're about to get another instance of Orcus will do anything for money. Shanla like does some detect magic and detects that there's like this like there's a big iris symbol, the eye symbol, because Hestra's symbol is like an eye, and there's like magic coming from it, and they're like, okay, somebody needs to touch that. Orcus will pay you to do it.
Yeah. I'm not an idiot, but $20 was $20.
Yeah. And what happens when you do this is you get pulled into a vision, and it's like a bit of a test. You're asked some questions.
I remember this test. It was a nice character moment for everyone, I believe.
Right.
A full few of us.
Okay, yeah. So like, you're given this vision. You're given the option to resist it, but so you can like resist being pulled into it, but you don't. And you're like in a dark void, and a path appears in front of you, like to walk, and you distinctly feel like you're being watched. And then you're asked some questions. And the questions are like, who are you? Is that true? What path do you walk? And where does it end? The who are you and is that true are usually just answered like simply, like I'm me, and yeah.
Who would say no to
write
is
down...
it true?
Sorry, what?
Who would say no to the is it true question?
You know what? You just ask. It makes it seem like weird, and then like that. I think that question was purely to establish the vibe of like, is it true that you are who you say? You know, like questioning your sense of identity and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I noted here that Orcus answered to I think the second or last question. I don't know.
Yeah.
Which, well, yeah, was a very good character moment of, like, Orcus is, like, not sure what his life is anymore. Because he was a slaver, but he gotten out of that. He's doing good things now. But, like, does he want to go back to doing that? Because he's realized he's being pulled in multiple directions. He's not sure what to do now with his life.
Yeah.
But
Classic
apparently that answer wasn't satisfactory because the door doesn't open. Yeah. Do you remember how you felt about this vision, Tom, and stuff?
I felt very, like, it made me think about Orcus a lot deeper, because it's like, yeah, like, I do have this sort of idea of, obviously doing better now, like, being the redemption stuff, but I actually, like, now I have to think about how he feels about his own redemption arc.
Right.
And that's the idea, like, and that made me have to do some thinking about.
I remember me and you did talk a little bit about like how Orcus felt about this afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And
like being directly asked kind of makes him realize, holy shit, I'm doing just
things are changing.
Why am I? Yeah, things are happening.
So the door doesn't open. You guys, I think Orcus comes back, describes like, hey, this is what happened. And everybody's like, okay, well, we want to open this thing. So Shanla, you touch it now. So Shanla touches it.
No, she knows it's safe.
And you answer that you want to help Wakatupi, essentially, and also you want to open a hospital later.
Yes.
If you remember. Do you remember what this vision was like, Gavin? Or
yes. Okay. Well, I remember that the road that Shanla walked, the metaphorical road, was different from Orcus. It appeared differently.
Oh right, yeah. I remember. I made notes about like. Oh, it was like made of dirt or brick or something. I forget. I don't know what I said.
Mine was brick or stone. I think hers was wood.
Okay.
Mine was like, I thought mine was like civilized, like more like civilized road type thing.
May have been, yeah.
I'm not sure, because she's a city girl, a strong independent,
which
from the big city.
We haven't actually mentioned explicitly a little thing about Shanla that was like relevant an episode or two ago. She's really good at herbalism, like really good.
Yeah,
that's how she made like the super weed.
Yeah,
and that's how she wants to like open a hospital. She wants to make medicines and stuff.
Yeah.
Forever she used like her main casting stat, and like her main stat was charisma. But there's the class ability that I had that I could use my charisma for herbalism. So I ended up being very, very good at herbalism.
Almost accidentally.
No, I think it was very intentional.
It was pretty intentional.
Yeah.
One thing that was accidental is I remember at the start, Elika Elika's build was to kind of going into herbalism a little bit, like just as a skill, and then Shanla was just blowing Elika out of the water, so I think the player didn't care. Stop for saying that as much.
It's like,
Yeah. Shanla's answer is like apparently satisfactory to the door. That she wants to help Wakatupi, and so the door opens, and you find some loot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There was a small cracked shard of creation, if you remember the one. So you have an actual working shard of creation again.
Yep.
And
we aren't gonna lose it this time.
then apparently there's a drawing depicting. I think this was like some torn tapestry that was like, tucked away here, depicting both the Waka and the Tupi praying to Apollyon while fighting each other. And I remember that like making sure there was a lot of emphasis on this as like old and important, actually, because what this is a key to like the backstory of why the archipelago is the way it is what this was. We'll get into exactly how that went some other time, but yeah, that's what that was. It was deep lore, and then that's where the session ended. So for this episode's outro discussion, again suggested by Tom, I'm going to talk a little bit about like how characters can like be perceived differently by different players. Like a player might have their own conception of their character, like maybe think they're super cool, but then like all the other players might have a completely different picture of who that character is, what they do, based on all kinds of things. Like particularly, I know Orcus has experienced this a little bit. Like this episode, he's like, "Hey, can you pick a lock?"
People,
and they're like, and he's like, I can't do that."
He never really. He didn't have that skill.
we did just class profile him there.
Oh yeah, he like Orcus suffered from this the most, of just being like, yeah, you're like the criminal, go do criminal things.
Like from the very beginning, I noted he's a hobgoblin, right?
Yes, he's a hobgoblin.
He was a hobgoblin, like, and people thought he was small size because
the goblin, right?
Hobgoblins aren't.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
Like they're somewhat short, but they're medium sized people.
Right.
So that was immediately a misconception.
I didn't think that.
Gavin mentioned, I don't think in recording,
that...
but he mentioned he pictured Orcus with a hood a lot.
Well, no, it wasn't a hood. I just imagined him grouchy as fuck.
Oh, right.
And
another common one with Orcus was we'd say he was brooding.
Yeah.
And Tom would be like, he's not brooding. He's brooding.
He's not doing it. Admittedly, I think it was one of those, like, oh, the guy is standoffish, and people automatically assume that means he's brooding.
I think one that happened to Elika a whole lot, we mentioned it before, is everybody thought she like followed a god. When she just had these powers because she was an oracle and weird shit was happening to her.
You said Elika. Did you mean Shanla?
Oh,
did I say Elika? I meant Shanla. Sorry.
Yeah, I kept getting asked like, what god do you follow again? Or you follow a god, right?
And
nope.
Yeah.
Because healing magic is almost always considered to be like a cleric thing, but she's an oracle, which is not following a deity.
Yeah, and like an oracle was like new as a concept for a class to most of us, because this was our first time playing Pathfinder.
Speaking of class stuff, Orcus was a slayer, not a rogue, so that's where
which
some
is more
of
of
the
a
stuff
combat-oriented
came.
Sneaky fellow.
Yeah, he's closer to a fighter than a sneak guy, but he could still do it pretty well.
Slayer is a really cool class.
Slayer's like edgy fighter. I like to say, but also it is really cool
because you get sneak attack and everything.
You get sneak attack, you get tracking abilities, you get some but you're also like capable of doing just as complex martial builds as fighters.
Yeah.
Another thing, I feel like Elika's player imagined Elika as a little more like scheming than she came off. She came off kind of just like as the quirky druid who liked to collect weird stuff and do drugs.
You know that the weird hippie in your college course, that guy?
I know she was like young.
Well, she was like 20 in elf years, but she was in elf like terms, but
Yeah.
or human terms, I guess. But she was actually like 100 years old. I think it was, or maybe no, I think it was 50. So half elf.
My brain kept thinking that she looked like an old lady for some reason while we were playing.
Right.
And then I had to be like, no, that's not. That can't be right. She's only 100.
Yeah, 50. But yes. 50 years young.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it never really came to fruition, but like Elika's player had originally imagined like they wanted to amass somewhat of like a drug empire. They wanted to like start selling drugs and like make money that way. And
what?
That just yeah. Well, listen, Elika's player sometimes comes up with quite the schemes. All right.
I do not remember this at all.
It was never mentioned to any of you. It was mentioned to me. And I was like, we'll see. Like, in my mind, I'm like, I know this story, how this is going to end, how this campaign's roughly going to go. And it's like, that's just most of the stuff. Like, the destruction is going to happen to some extent. There's going to be a lot of damage. You're not going to build and establish drug infrastructure, you know?
I mean, afterwards, it'd be a great chance to build a drug infrastructure.
But like also just the course of the campaign wasn't gonna really welcome that. So like, but like that was like the player kind of went in thinking that, and he eventually kind of shifted around to doing other things. But yeah.
Although, like player perceptions of their ideas is also like kind of the story beats type of person that you want them to come across as doesn't always work, you know.
It's a common thing of like a character doesn't survive contact with the campaign sometimes, you know? You start like, oh, it's going to be like this and do this, and then the campaign happens, like, that's just not the case. And you either have to shift or, like, do something else,
I think, for the most part, my characters do, like, succeed in what I build them for, like, character-wise.
You, as a player, tend to be very cooperative with, like, what's happening in the campaign. Like, you'll talk to me the most about, like, hey, the campaign seems to be going this way. I want a character that does sort of this. Could we, like, you'll work with me a lot on like a character arc for your character.
Because I care a lot about the story of the character, not just the combat prowess and like fancy build I've made. Because I see Pathfinder Dungeons & Dragons as a, like, it's a cooperative story, not just a cooperative game.
I think, in terms of, like, how you guys view your character, I think, Fierce's player tends to view it as, like, a build. That's his primary way he looks at it. He looks at it as, like, the build he's doing, which is fine.
Yeah. It's like you're playing, like, the same way you play Skyrim. You don't play Skyrim as the Dragonborn. You play Skyrim as this is magic.
The consequence of that, like his characterization tends to get left up a lot more to like how the other players interact with it. Like Fierce got characterized as a quiet, grumpy cat dude, you know.
No, he got characterized as a banjo player.
And the banjo, yes.
A very respectable banjo player.
But like things like that. So that's how like Fierce's player tends to get characterized, because it's just like kind of what happens and how the other players interact and what he gets interested. Elika's player tends to view his character like with like goals, really.
He has these fancy goals that he doesn't really talk to anyone but maybe you about, the DM, and that's how he sees us as. I typically have like a character and an arc I sort of want them to go through the way a movie does.
And Gavin, I feel like you usually show up and you've just got like your character's gimmick, personality, or build.
Yeah, the personality like will come at some random point during the building process. of the character.
You'll just have it and you'll stick with it.
Because from my point of view, Shanla is like, oh, she's a heal bot kind of character, but she's also, as a person, she's like sass.
Yeah, she definitely evolved over the campaign into very sassy, kind of like a leader-ish figure, mostly because Gavin just was the one who knew what was going on and so ended up taking a leadership role.
Sort of like a big sister type deal? I don't know.
Or she got characterized as drunk a lot of the time, or like using drunk to like cope with problems. Inhibition.
Also do drugs. Come on.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, she was ready to do whatever.
Yeah, she was like a rebellious teen is kind of what she got, but a capable but rebellious teen.
Yes.
Is a lot of what her characterization ended up being. Although we can get more into that later. Some funny stuff happens with that. But yeah, unless you guys have any other comments, I think that's where we can leave off.
No.
Is there any idea for like how to how to make it clear what you want your character to be?
I think that's a whole other discussion.
Trying to get it across. Yeah, I think the main thing, since I mentioned it, I'll mention. I think the number one thing is communication. Like, obviously, talk to your DM about it, or talk to your other players if you have an idea for like how they could interact. If, for crazy idea, you want to get in a relationship with another player character, which is complicated.
It has never happened in our campaigns, in case anyone's wondering.
Yeah.
So far.
I wonder if we ever will have it happen.
Anyway, that is where we're going to end the session off. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Session. Bye.